What is going on, guys? My name is Irvin and I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Today's video is going to be one for all you new guys that are getting into IS300. Now, they are amazing cars, but they're getting a little bit old, and honestly, a lot of these cars did not see the maintenance that they should have been seeing. So I'm going to be showing you guys the first few maintenance items that you guys should be doing to your cars when you get them, just to make sure that they stay in tip-top running condition. These fixes are going to be super easy and honestly require very little tooling, if at all any. Without any further ado, let's introduce the star of our show, my 2003 Lexus IS300. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to tackle in this video is probably the easiest, doesn't require any tools. Honestly, it takes half a second to do. That's the air filter. Once you got your hood open, you can go ahead and check your air filter. It sits right here under this cover, only 3 little claws holding it in. Disengage them like that, that cover comes out. This filter, you can just pull it all the way out, and you can see that's dirty as shit. I probably should have changed this a long time ago, but you know, maybe I might be one of those neglectful owners that doesn't do the maintenance on his car. That's disgusting. We're gonna throw that away. Get a little shot of the old filter compared to the new one. Huge difference. Now you want to make sure you keep up with this because the more dirt it takes in, the less air it's going to be able to suck in, which means less power to your engine. And nobody wants less power, so keep your air filter clean. To install the new one, we're just going to plop that guy right in there, get that cover on it, and lock her down. Alright, for the next thing, we're going to actually move inside the car. And this is what we're going to be replacing. This is a cabin filter. This is going to take all of the air that comes from outside of your car, gets pumped in through the AC system, into your face. So you want to make sure that this is clean because you don't want to be pumping just nasty, super pollinated air into your face, right? This one's a little bit trickier than the engine air filter, but it's still just as easy. What we got to do, we got to get in behind the glove box. As you guys can see, there's little tabs right up there and there. So those things stop the glove box from going all the way down. What I usually do is I put my hand on the back of the glove box and push forward towards the front of the car while squeezing the sides in. And it comes down just like that. Now behind that, we're gonna see this cover. This cover is for your cabin filter, and this should just come out just like that. And oh my God, look at that. That is absolutely disgusting. So I'm glad we're doing this one too. It was also upside down. So technically, on these style filters, they're supposed to go in like that. So we're just gonna go ahead and ditch the filter. Keep the cage that it was in because you're gonna need that for the new filter. So on the cabin filter, I did end up going aftermarket only because this filter is an activated charcoal filter. So it's a little bit more spendy than the factory one, but this will make sure that I don't ever get any smells in my car. So if I ever get any sort of like AC smells coming through or anything like that, anything from outside, this will help filter that out better than a normal cabin filter would. Now this one also has an airflow arrow. So you're gonna wanna make sure that that's pointing down when you install it, because all of the airflow is coming from outside the car down into the blower motor and into your vent. So this is just going to go right into the same cage that the old cabin filter went into, and we can stick that back in. A lot of times when you're changing these out, if they get real dirty, probably drop some stuff into the blower motor. Make sure that you don't. If leaves or anything like that end up in it, it can start making all kinds of noise. So make sure you don't get anything in there. If you do try to get it out, you can usually stick your fingers in there and grab whatever falls in. If not, you might have to pull the blower motor. Super easy, 3 screws, drops out the bottom. So the next thing we're going to be doing is wipers. So this is something that's kind of overlooked a lot of times because like you really don't think about it. But if you live somewhere where it rains a lot, this is pretty important. Now the wipers that I have installed are pretty similar to the factory ones, but they're not. So most of these cars, I can guarantee you will probably have a set of aftermarket wipers on them, which kind of sucks because aftermarket wipers are both kind of expensive to replace and pretty low quality a lot of times. So what I like to do is actually replace them with factory parts. Now these are factory wipers. These, however, aren't Lexus wipers. Now I did a lot of research when it comes to actually replacing these wipers, and I found that the 2012 Scion XB actually has the same wiper length setup that the IS300 has, but they have a special type of wiper. I'll show you guys. So from the factory, the IS300 has full steel wipers. In the newer stuff, Toyota went to full plastic wipers, but on the 2012 Scion XB, they have something a little bit special. They've got this, a steel skeleton plastic exterior shell wiper blade. These ones, you can actually get just the inserts for, and they're cheap. Just that little piece of rubber is like $6 to $7 from a Toyota dealership. Super easy to install, and honestly works just as good, if not better, than most aftermarket wiper blades. So that's what I usually like to go with, because it's a little bit bigger of an initial investment, but they're so cheap afterwards. So you can change them every year for like 12 bucks, 14 bucks a set. Now, if you look at the wiper blades, they actually have two different sides. One of them has a fatter side, one of them has a thinner side. You always want to pull the fatter side because that's what actually locks it into place. That whole insert just comes out. This insert will now have two little metal rods that you have to pull out of it. That will just pull out like that, and you'll just insert those into your new wiper insert. You just go into the two longest grooves on the very top, and boom, you're done. Just like that, you got your new insert ready and loaded and ready to put back in your wiper. So I always like to put the fat end on the driver's side of the vehicle, just because when the wipers are moving, the forces are going to be pushing them out towards the passenger side, and if the fat end's on the driver's side, it won't let it go anywhere. So for these next two things, we're gonna actually have to pull the car into the garage. We're gonna have to get it on a jack and on some jack stands. You wanna make sure that you change the oil on it. That's one of the first things you wanna do. So make sure you get a good filter, make sure you get some good oil. Now I know some of you guys are new to this, so I am gonna guide you guys through what you have to do to actually get this done, and we'll be on our way. But we're gonna have to start by jacking the car up. All right, so now that we got all the covers off, we can see what we're actually doing. Right here is the drain plug. We're gonna go ahead and pull that, and up in here is the oil filter. So that's gonna have to come out too. Now you always got to make sure to use some brake clean and a towel to dry that off, make sure it's nice and clean, so if you ever have any leaks, you know where it's coming from. Now for the oil filter, that's the fun part. We're going to be using one of these guys. I'll post a link to this on Amazon. They're super nice to have. This is honestly the best oil filter wrench you can get for pretty much any of these metal canister type filters. So we're going to have to stick that in there with a ratchet to get the measly little oil filter that they hide all the way back there. Yep. And that's why I hate doing oil changes on 2JZs. You couldn't have just designed like a little spout that brings it out this way, or just put the oil filter somewhere over here. Come on. I pretty much only use Toyota oil filters on mine. They're nice. They come pre-greased. This little guy comes on them, so the O-ring's already nice and greased and lubed up, ready to put in. So we can just throw this guy in, spin it on, only by hand. Don't get it too tight, just snug it up. And we'll have to do like 5 hours of cleaning, of course, because of the design, but we'll pretty much be done. Can we just take a second and look at how fucking nice those fucking Fortunato coilovers are? Oh my god, that's delicious. Now, of course, 7 cans of brake clean later, and we'll get this thing clean enough to be put back on the road. All right, and now that I've inhaled enough brake clean to knock out a small elephant, we can move on to filling it. Obviously, the oil viscosity is going to be shown on the oil cap. You're going to want to put 530 in it. These old girls take 5.7 quarts to fill. I do use a slightly larger oil filter than the factory one, so I go ahead and put 6 in mine. But other than that, that's about it. You just fill the oil, start it, turn it off. After you turn it off, pull out your dipstick and make sure the oil level is at the top dot. So I'm going to go ahead and fill mine now. I pretty much always use Mobil 1 for my oil changes. Just a personal preference. And as long as you have clean oil in your engine, it doesn't necessarily matter. Just make sure that it's good quality clean oil. So we're a little low. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit. Right there, we're perfect. All right, so the last piece of maintenance I'm gonna show you guys is one that's kind of always overlooked by a lot of the new guys, and that's your rear differential fluid. So we're gonna go ahead and get under the car in the back, and I'll show you guys how to change that. All right, so right back here, we got our rear differential. This is the guy that transfers power from the drive line to the rear axles. So this guy is just a big gear set. Inside of here, we got one little gear from the drive shaft and one big ring gear. These came in 2 separate types in the IS300, either an open differential or a limited slip differential. Now I can explain the differences between the 2 differentials in another video. All that you need to know is basically maintaining them is pretty much the same. We use what's called a Torsen rear LSD instead of a clutch type LSD, which I can also explain in another video if you guys really want me to. But that means that everything inside of here that is causing this to be a limited slip differential is because of gears, not clutch packs. Because of that, we're only going to be using regular gear oil. We don't have to use any additives or anything like that. I know a lot of people suggest it, but on these you really don't need it. There's no point. So we're going to go ahead and pull the drain plug and the fill plug up here. Kind of hard to see. Usually I pull the fill plug first just to make sure that if anything's stuck, that the fill plug's the only one out and you didn't let any oil out. So we're going to go ahead and pull that one first. A lot of times it makes it easier if you just hammer on the heads of them, if they're really annoying, but I don't think I'll need to on mine because mine's well maintained. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull those plugs and let the oil out and get the new stuff in. Alright, here's the secret sauce. It is a 10mm Allen socket on what I believe is an 8-inch extension on a nice long ratchet. So you'll want to make sure you push hard on this guy so it doesn't slip, and then we'll be able to bust that. Whew. Well, she broke loose. Alright, and then out can come our fill plug. Oh, wow, look at how close I was to spilling that. I got hella lucky. Now we'll do the same for the drain plug, which is right down here. Now this guy is gonna have a lot of fluid coming out of it, so be ready. Just like that, clean. Look at that, no oil on those hands. So you can tell the difference between the drain plug and the fill plug because the drain plug has this big magnet on it. This is gonna catch any metal deposits or anything like that that comes off the diff, and just make sure all the oil inside there is nice and clean. So you're gonna wanna make sure to get a rag to this, clean it off, make sure the magnet's nice and clean before you put it back in. All right, so I got our new crush washers. I got our drain and fill plugs nice and clean. We're gonna go ahead and put the drain plug in, fill it with oil, and then put the fill plug in. So I'm going to be using some of this red line 7590, or as my buddy Matt likes to call it, liquid gold, and a nice little transfer pump. So that guy is going to pump all the fluid out of these guys into the diff. They're like 10 bucks. You can get them at AutoZone. Literally any parts store will have one of these. They're super nice to have. So this hose is going to go into our 7590. This one's going to go to our diffs, and then we'll get to pumping. All right. Now you guys can see oil coming out of the diff. That means that we're full. You can go ahead and pull that. We'll let that drain until there's no more coming out, and then it'll be at the level of our fill plug. We'll go ahead and stick that guy back in. Now of course we'll tighten this guy back up, and of course clean everything. Alright, so with that, that concludes the first 5 small maintenance items I think you should be doing to your IS300s right when you're buying them. There are a few other things you're going to want to end up doing, of course, taking care of all the oil leaks, doing coolant, water pump, timing belt, all that stuff if it hasn't been done. But those are bigger jobs for another day. This is just the easier stuff that you could probably pretty much take care of in an afternoon and have this thing running in tip-top shape. It's going to keep it on the road, and it's going to keep it driving nice. The one piece of advice I can give to all you new guys is maintenance before mods. Before you start putting all your money into any of the cool stuff that you want to do to your car, make sure you do some of the boring stuff, because that's what's going to keep it on the road, not, you know, your $400 coilovers or your lips or anything like that. That's not going to change anything. Make sure that it drives well. With that being said, I hope you guys liked the video. Stay tuned for the next one. I'll see you guys next time.